You are listening to the French Kiss Life podcast, where we explore what it means to live artfully and well. I'm Tanya Lee, your hostess. Let's get started. Well, hello, everybody. Happy whatever day it is that you're listening to this. For me, it's a Wednesday, 9:15 a.m., and I have my coffee, so all is well. Plus, I'm sitting in my room in Aspen. I try to come here at least a few times a year. It's one of my favorite places. I know a lot of times we think of Aspen in the wintertime, but summers here are the best. Yesterday, I woke my daughter up first thing and I said, hey, let's jump on our bikes and ride into town and get a coffee. And there's something about mountain air first thing in the morning that's so refreshing. So we biked into town, sat at this little cafe, and just hung out, just chilled. And that is so hard for a lot of us to do, myself included. I love being busy, but sometimes we just need to be. And so I've been doing a lot of being this week. I've also been working too. Typically when I travel, I work unless it's a designated no work trip. But just by the nature of what I do and the amount I travel, I'm usually working, but I try to fit in some fun times. Okay, this is starting to sound like a travel podcast. Maybe I should do one of those in the future. But actually, for this podcast, I want to talk about if self-help can do more harm than good. And my answer to this really depends on whether you do this one thing. So I want to talk about my client, Kate. She came to me because she wanted to lose 20 pounds. And 4 years prior, she had discovered the world of self-help and she was obsessed. So when she came to me, she'd already worked with 8 coaches. And she confided in me that in her desperate seeking over the previous 1,500 days, she had not yet lost weight. In fact, she'd actually gained 10 additional pounds. Why? Well, Kate had fallen prey to self-help binging. And you know what? She's not alone. What at first can offer us so much possibility, buying programs, hiring mentors, and filling up our Kindles with the latest self-help books, it can quickly turn into overconsumption with zero action. Here's the thing. Self-help doesn't help unless you help yourself. I was having a discussion with my friend the other night, and she admitted to me that she has bought 5 programs in a month, and she hasn't completed one of them. And so she asked me, do you think self-help can do more harm than good? And I said to her, only if you consume it and never create something from it. Self-help is amazing when you apply it to your life. And yet I've seen so many women pretend to do the work by simply reading one more book, signing up for one more program, and taking one more workshop. And I'll admit there's a thrill in the quest, but that thrill is often followed by so much disappointment with a pattern that keeps you trapped as a consumer instead of a creator. The analogy I like to use is it's like stuffing your fridge with delicious ingredients and never cooking a single meal from them. Everything just gets rotten and smelly, and then you have to throw everything out in the trash and start over. Constant consumption is actually easy. The real work is hard and so rewarding. Said another way, consuming more information is not the work. The work is taking what you're learning and applying it to your life. Now, I'm going to admit that I'm not a fan of the term self-help, and I'm not sure why. I think it's because it seems to confirm this belief that we as women have that we're broken and we need fixin', as we say in the South. But listen, you are not broken and you don't need to be fixed. You're not a car that's broken down. For me, I prefer the term personal growth or personal development. And it's truly a world that I love. I love the idea that we can grow and evolve beyond who we are today. And we can do it from a place of love and joy, not fear and scarcity. I love the idea that we as women can decide who we want to be and create her. I think it's such an amazing gift that we are given as human beings. And personally, I'm always seeking out personal development mentors. When it comes to the personal development world, I'm convinced that I would not be where I am today without the amazing teachers and mentors who have helped me see what's possible and taught me how to be the best version of myself. Because here's the thing, you don't know what you don't know. I think back to when I was a young kid living in a trailer in the deep South. I didn't know certain things were possible for a girl like me. Everywhere I looked around me, we were all living very similar lives. But thanks to books and teachers and mentors who were a few steps ahead of me, I was able to see, wow, maybe there is another possibility. And this is one of the reasons why I think personal development is such an amazing gift. In fact, I take at least 4 programs a year. And I just paid $25,000 for my next mentor. Yep, that's a big chunk of change. But I believe in myself enough to do the work. And doing the work equals results. I enjoy investing in inspiration, coaching, and other personal development programs, but the investment only produces an ROI if I put in the work. I don't expect my coaches and mentors to do the work for me. I value their feedback, but my success is my job. And as a woman who has evolved so many times and is completely unrecognizable to the woman I was over a decade ago, I know when I invest in my personal growth, there are some things I can expect. I can expect it's going to be super uncomfortable. It's going to challenge me and push me. I'll have to make hard decisions. I'll have to evolve beyond the woman I am today. And you all, that often feels like a death because you're literally letting your old self die. I know that I'm probably going to have to say no more. I'm going to risk failure and rejection. I'm going to have to overcome my own doubt, which I have every single day. I'll have to let go of habits that no longer serve me. I'll have to do the work. I'll have to create, not just consume. From over a decade of creating, I know that this is what you sign up for when you decide to live a bold, passionate life. You know, I've heard so many women say things like, that book didn't help me or that program didn't work. But y'all, it's time to get honest with yourself. Did you help yourself? Did you work the program? Because magical things happen when you take what you're learning and create something from it. Let me give you a few examples from my own life. I had this deep desire to become someone who wrote about wine, even though I didn't know a thing about wine. In fact, my first day of sommelier school, I sat in the front row and I was so excited. I was so eager to learn. And the sommelier instructor asked the class, what is your favorite wine? And Country Bumpkin over here raised my hand and I said, I love rose wine. And the whole class just went silent. Like, what is this girl doing in this class? However, I still did the work. I risked failure. I made a fool of myself. And after I finished the program, I immediately started pitching myself as a wine expert to get writing gigs and consulting jobs. Now, keep in mind, the whole time my mind was telling me that I wasn't ready, but I knew that the only way I was going to learn more was to create something. Another example is I had a desire to leave my nursing career and become a life coach. So my first step was to get certified. And while I was in the coach certification program, I hired a website designer and I started my blog, even before I was certified. Before I finished, I had paying clients. Now, was I the best coach back then? Absolutely not. But through creating something, I have developed my skills and consider myself one of the top coaches in my space. And on top of that, I walked away from a quote unquote very stable job. And to this day, my mom asked me, have you let your license go? And every time I'm like, yeah, Mom, I did about 10 years ago. But here's the thing. I believed in myself enough to do the work. Another example is I hired a COO from the company. As an entrepreneur, every business book and program I have ever taken says you can't do it alone. Yet my mind tried to convince me that I was different and I was special. What was really happening was that my mind was scared of the investment of bringing on someone that would cost me more than I made as a nurse in a year. Yet I knew that I had to trust my mentors and go all in. So I hired her And honestly, it was one of the best decisions for myself and the company. We 10x'd our revenue that year. I also so desired to lose weight, but more importantly, to end my weight struggle. As women, I am convinced that is one of the worst struggles that you go through. It's terrible. And so when I was 70 pounds heavier, I loved to consume diet information. I was truly addicted to diets and dieting books. But here's the thing, my friends, reading Skinny Bitch does not make one skinny. In fact, my obsession with consumption and not creation only supplied more evidence that I would always struggle. So when I committed to making peace with food in my body and started taking action, I lost the weight and I've kept it off for years. I also had this desire to take women on international retreats. Now, you all keep in mind, I did not grow up jet setting. And I laugh only because when I had this dream and desire, it was long before I had heard of any life coaches hosting international retreats, but it was a dream of mine. I had no formula. I had no step-by-step on how to do it. I didn't even know that I could hire an event planner, but I set the date. I advertised and I filled up the program where one of our destinations was Monaco. I planned the whole thing myself. Now, was it the most spectacular retreat ever? Lord, no. In fact, compared to the caliber of my retreats that I host today, it was very amateur. But you know what? I created an international retreat. I did the work. I created something from my consumption. So if you're someone who tends to consume a lot of self-help and you don't feel like you're getting any traction, I want to share with you the 3 rules that I follow to turn personal development into my own personal freedom, because I bet you and I are a lot alike. We love to learn and grow and evolve. And I don't want you to get me wrong. It's important that we learn new things. It's important that we surround ourselves with mentors and teachers, because we don't know what we don't know again, right? Yet we must be mindful of our intentions and be honest about our results. So here are the 3 rules that I follow. Number 1, I commit to following through on every program I invest in. I do not allow myself to buy program after program, just like I no longer allow myself to binge eat. I know that the thrill of investing only to be followed by the disappointment of not following through does not serve me. When I think about all of the things I want to feel about myself, disappointment is not one of them. So instead, I commit to completing every program I join. And by completion, I don't mean just listening to the materials. I mean scheduling it in my calendar, showing up for the calls, and taking action based on what I'm learning. The second rule is I only allow a small and selective crew into my head at any given time. When we start consuming so much information from so many different people, our mind starts to sound like a self-help choir. And for this reason, I carefully consider who I let into my mind space. My personal development crew is a lot like my close friend circle. They are small and mighty. I decide who these people will be based on the next evolution of myself and my goals. This approach allows me to dig deep into their wisdom and really create momentum versus jumping from one expert to the other, only touching the surface of their brilliance and leaving me usually feeling very confused. And then the third rule is I diversify my consumption. While I love me some Tony Robbins, if that's all I ever consumed, I'd probably go batshit crazy. Equally, the same could be said about me or Susie Orman or anyone. When it comes to who I focus on, I often switch up my industries. Some seasons it's about health and wellness. Other seasons it's about spirituality. Other seasons it's about style or finances. Because we are complex and amazing creatures, our souls need the diversity to keep us inspired in French-kissing life. So if you've been binging in the personal development world for a long time and aren't seeing any results, it tells me one thing. You're simply consuming and not creating. Okay, it's time for some Tanya Lee tough love, some TL love. Here's what the big lie of doing the work looks like. Reading a book is not the work. Watching a video is not the work. Listening to a call or a podcast is not the work. Reading a blog post is not the work. Perusing Facebook for hours most definitely is not the work. Joining the gym is not the work. Paying for a program is not the work. Here's what the work really looks like. It's refusing to eat that second cookie after a hard day and being willing to feel the immense discomfort that's going to happen. It's handing out your resume to 10 companies even though you're feeling so much self-doubt. It's booking the ticket even though your mind is telling you that you shouldn't take that time away from your family. It's getting up an hour earlier to work on your business even when you're tempted to hit the snooze button. It's showing up for yoga class even though you'd rather go home and binge on Big Little Lies. It's wearing that gorgeous dress that's been hanging in your closet to an upcoming event, even though you feel terrified of what people will think. It's leaving a relationship that has an expiration date. It's being honest with yourself with how you've gained the weight and committing to addressing the real issues. It's actually forgiving after reading the chapter on forgiveness and understanding it intellectually. And the moment you finish listening to this podcast, it's taking a small action towards something you desire. If you want to help yourself, create something from what you're learning. Information in general can be the catalyst to miracles when you take what you're learning and apply it to your life. In a nutshell, taking action towards what you say you want and feeling every ounce of discomfort that comes with living your dreams is the work of the creative process. My clients get results because we have this very frank discussion. I dish out some TL love to them and I say, listen, this program or me, we're not your miracles. You are the miracle. And I challenge them to apply what they're learning. And I've seen incredible results, such as more confidence, a published book, forgiveness of family members that they haven't spoken to in years, a size 6 body, a new home, better relationships, more travel, a successful business, finishing their degrees, new life after divorce, so many miracles. Because my clients are creating new futures by doing the work. And as for my client, Kate, she lost the weight. And she went on to work with me for another year to help her find the man of her dreams. That was 3 years ago. And she is now married with an 18-month little girl. She stopped consuming and she started creating. She did the hard work of refusing to stuff down her feelings, going on a walk when her brain was telling her to wait until tomorrow, getting out of the house and going to events, having a few bad dates in order to have her dream one, dressing up every day even though her mind was telling her how silly it was. So my challenge to you is to take what you have learned from the personal development world and apply it to your life. Do the uncomfortable, messy, hard work that's required to truly French kiss life. And if this speaks to you, I'm excited for another announcement. In the next couple of podcasts, I'm going to be doing a series of interviews with some fabulous women from our community, just like you, who have created amazing results in their lives by committing to the practice and creating their lives on purpose. Their stories, I promise, will inspire you to create, especially on the days when you don't feel like it. So if you are not yet a French Kiss Life subscriber, make sure you go to FrenchKissLife.com/join so that you will not miss when these interviews go live. So let's create, my friends. I'd love to know what's one thing you commit to creating this week. You can hit me up on Instagram or Facebook, but I'd love to hear your commitment to creation because truly that's when miracles happen. That's when self-help becomes an amazing tool to help you create an incredible life. Take care, my friends. Cheers.